Good morning. I am higher vibrations. Yeah, just so to echo back, I'm sure what a lot of you are experiencing. There's some crazy energy going on right now. I actually didn't even know if I was going to be able to get on today. I couldn't get the internet thing it was on, but it wasn't working. Anyway, we are in a G1 geomagnetic storm with a KP index of 5. Though these solar flares that have left the sun a couple of days ago that were expected to be here today are planned to have a little bit bigger impact than we're having right now. So if y'all are noticing some kind of weird energy in that your bodies are feeling a little bit more funky today, if you're having more ascension symptoms, this is pretty common. Also, this is a moment where that comet that we've been waiting for, the PT5 2024 PT5, also known as the Blue Mountain or Purple Mountain Atlantis, has just entered our vicinity. If you're down in the southern hemisphere, you'll be able to see this comet. However, by the 10th of October, on the 1010 portal through the 12th of October, it's going to be the brightest star in the night sky for the northern hemisphere. So make it, if you get a chance to check that out. One more thing to add, October 2nd is the other side of this eclipsal corridor that we've been in. So that's the day that we'll have like the annular solar eclipse. People in the west, or excuse me, the eastern side of America will be able to see this. Be if you're over in the West Coast, but you'll still feel it. So we're just having a lot going on right now, and I just wanted to echo that out to anyone who's experiencing some of this funky stuff. So, and without further ado, I wanted to welcome my guest back, Dr. Dwayne. Dr. Dwayne was here before. We had a really good conversation. Dr. Dwayne has a lot of experience in this field of helping and assisting individuals in the awakening journey. And a lot of other things. A lot of us come on here in this lifetime and we have all this trauma piled up, and it shows itself in different ways. And so Dr. Dwayne, that's one of his kind of expertise, and his mission's been to assist people in that. So I just want to say welcome to Dr. Dwayne. Thank you for coming back. How are you?
Good. And how are you? Thank you for the nice intro there.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm funky.
Funky.
I'm feeling funky, man. I spent most of yesterday sleeping, and I feel like I didn't do it. Today I feel so tired. I am exhausted. You too?
Well, we had a rush trip to take my mom into the hospital last night. So it was a late night going through emergency.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But she's doing better today.
Good.
And so things are good. But yeah, I'm a bit tired, but also excited to be on your show.
Oh, I'm happy that you've joined us.
I'm happy you have me on.
There's a lot going on right now of these traumas coming up and forward. I'm just wondering, have you noticed that like people seem to be more in this willing or ready to heal, to kind of release themselves from this?
We're in the last throes of something here. Mm-hmm. And in these last throes, we're presented with so much stuff. There's really only one place to go.
Right.
I am. And if we go to I am, you see, there is no sin. The only sin there is the fact that you won't admit you're God. And the pressure will increase and continue in every aspect until you come into ownership of that this 20 or 200 feet around me is my universe.
Right.
Right? So we have been very, very addicted to the fact that reality's out there coming towards me. And And this is the evolutionary experience that we're facing right now. And that's how come we have so much pressure from every angle. All the lies are being exposed, everyone's getting confused as to what reality is what. You know, it's all so that you come inward and you go, I am, and whatever I vibrate, that's the universe I live in, my universe, right? So within the matrix itself, you have your own universe, and this is why there is so much pressure prior to for you to not accept that your imagination is your power. Right. Because your imagination that's the only thing that's, at some point in time yesterday you imagined yourself today or you wouldn't be here. Right. It's that literal, but there was such a nice job done on the fact that your imagination is a no thing. You could simply go into your imagination and allow yourself to have a full visual, auditory, kinesthetic experience of something you desire, and that is the signal to the greater part of your mind to create that, and you create that. But in neutral, walking around just thinking about these things haphazard, they're happening, and people don't get the fact that they are the optimum power.
Right.
Most of the time with these people that are wanting to show us their complete insecurity, which is, these elites, right? They're so insecure about themselves, right, that they feel they need to control everything. That's the only time you have a need for control like that, is when you're insecure. So they don't want you to come into your security, right? Because if you were secure and this vibration, you knew your vibration is your reality, and your imagination is your journey, is how you get there. Well, then you're not held by them anymore, and they know that, and that's what scares them. That's why all the fear, the banging of the pots and pans and running around you. Are you scared yet?
Right. So much that, like, when you walk into the room, before you walk into the room that's concealed by the door, you manifest that room. You manifest every element within that room, what the experience is going to be like based on your expectation. The manifestation is yours. You decide. It's such a difficult thing to conceptualize or to wrap our linear mind around, because it is a very quantum way of, it's true though.
Well, and in all honesty, there's times where I'm going along in my life, even though I teach it, but I do teach it, and people get it because I go into their experience literally and bring out the magic in them, their own natural magic that they've had their whole life but suppressed it. And I help them bring that out. But yet, and I do a good job of that, but yet I still go through ups and downs. I still go through the things, maybe not at maybe the same thing, but other levels where all of a sudden it kicks in, where I really kick in with my understanding of it, and then I'm producing it and it's doing good, and then a little glitch will show up, and then if I focus on that glitch and get panicky about the glitch, my whole reality turns into that glitch. Then I got to go back and right, go through it again. But we're so much more powerful than what we have been taught.
Exactly.
I've seen absolute miracles, absolute magic. I live in that world, right? And it's only because I allow myself to shift into that perception that magic is real, and that I'm not really of this earth. I'm an observer of the earth. I'm an observer of what's going on. Somebody once said a shaman, a true shaman, is someone who isn't of the herd. They're separate from the herd and they observe the herd of people, of humanity, but they're not of it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so when I heard that, I started playing with that concept and idea of being that kind of disassociated a bit from everything that's going on so that I can associate into my true nature of
Right.
who I am, right? And I know I'm preaching to the choir.
Oh,
Right?
this it's well received too by this audience, because this is all exactly in alignment with what we're at least discovering, if we haven't already known this before. I mean, all these things are stuff that we already know. That's why we use the area of the brain where memory, it's recollection. We're recalling this information because
That's right.
it's already within us.
You had it as a child growing up, and probably till around 5 years old, and that's when they started getting really heavy with beating you down with putting a mask on, right? Parents did it because they were afraid that you would look different than the rest and get called out. So they did it. I mean, teachers did it because that's part of the, Rockefeller programming, which we call school system, which, you weren't allowed to imagine. That's how come the arts are the lowest on the scale
Right.
as far as learning, because they don't want you visiting right brain too much.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You'd float right out of this paradigm.
Right.
They know that.
People still do that to me now. Adults will like do behavior modeling, and then they'll also talk about, they'll make comments, like things that, for instance, I could have, this is just an example of many. I could sit here and be doing the list of this for days. I put up a Christmas tree, and it has caused such a ripple in my community of like, oh, you're not supposed to do that, and like you're an outlier. You're doing something contrary to what everyone else is doing. And at first, I just wanted to see what it looked like, and I was like, this is kind of cool because we just got it. It was on sale, and
Yeah.
we're gonna need one eventually. And anyway, it's turned into this whole thing, where like, in fact, there are people who are putting up their Christmas trees throughout the community of higher vibrations that, since we started having this conversation, and the energy of like contrary, you shouldn't do that. That's not how it's done. That's not how it's done. Like, and people know that you're not doing it like everyone else. You're supposed to do this and this and this. And it's like, it's still a programmed system that people like work really hard to maintain and to follow. Still, I'm 45 years old. I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? But it's like, you still have these people. I mean, this happens with everything, with what I wear, how I behave, everything.
All the time. Yeah. I talked to somebody, it was just yesterday on that experience. Somebody, it was at the grocery store, and they says, do you want to give a $2 donation to the children's whatever fund and everything? I said, no. And she goes, oh. And I says, yeah, well, you guarantee me how much those kids actually see of that, and I will. Right? Like the older we get, the more wiser we get, that there are things going on that what would be normal would be to give, kids give, right? But then you hear all these, or you hear or experience, like what happened up here with the Red Cross, and we had a city up here that burnt. They had to evacuate 80,000 people and get them out of town, and everyone was pushing the Red Cross. And then what happened is that when the people got to where they needed to go and they needed this stuff, Red Cross wasn't anywhere to be found.
Right.
They got the money, but they didn't give the thing. So I know I'm a little tired today and might be jumping all over the place.
You're doing great. I can't tell you're tired at all. I'm the one that feels tired. But you're right. I feel the same way. I mean, I have the same thing happen too. So and my example is the same as yours. Of standing in line, and the over aggressive teller trying to convince me to give money to what they decide is going to be a useful fund for someone. And my experience is the same as yours. I definitely love to donate my time and resources to those who could use it
Yeah,
in the way that I know is going to be actually given to them. I mean,
exactly.
it takes this is a thing, and I'm just going to put this out there because this is kind of something new that's coming to my understanding over the past just a couple of years ago, I guess. But it takes in order to be considered a charity, you have to give at least 8 cents on the dollar to the charity to and not keep that 8 cents. So you can still keep the 92 cents, right? Goodwill, that they're known, that's what their name is, as well as
Yep.
Salvation Army.
Yep.
They're known for being, that's where the Christmas Santa, Salvation Army, they no longer can be classified as charity because they keep so much of it. They keep more than the 92 cents on the dollar, and
Yeah.
this may have changed since I honed into it. However, I find that just appalling that you're required to give only 8 cents to be considered a charity.
Yeah.
What? Like when you donate $1 to somebody, let's just say it's $1, it could be $100. I would expect at least 92 cents of that going to them, not the other way around, right? It's
Yeah.
a
You would
false.
think. So you would think, but it's you take a look at. No, I'm going to mention one other, Samaritan's Purse. Now, if you go on, they have to, because they're public. All of these charities, you could go in and see what the CEO gets per year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of these 300,000, 400,000 a year, whatever, right? That these charities are giving their CEO, and then it breaks down from there. You go to Samaritan's Purse, and it's like 30,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So look at what the CEO makes, and then you can just kind of discover whether they're a good charity or not.
Right.
But anyway, that's on the outside. And on the inside, we can have a delightful journey in life
Mm-hmm.
simply by allowing ourselves to have a really good feeling and using your imagination, hearing your own internal dialogue that you would be saying in that state, and then create that state. I don't know if I mentioned last time, like when I moved objects with my mind one time, and that's how I did it. Was I looked at the objects I wanted to move. I could see them in my third eye falling. I could hear them fall, imaginary. And then I felt the vibration on the floor of them falling. And then it was like I just held in a state of knowingness. I just knew. And I held that. Because that is a very important thing, that knowing. And that's really where a lot of some of our manifestation teachings that are out there don't cover, is the knowing part.
Right.
You have to know, like, and it's a knowing with faith, or that you just glow, you just know. And I just waited, and it didn't take long at all, and all of a sudden it happened. It was like I projected the thing out there and allowed time to catch up, and then boom, it happened, right?
Yeah.
So I set it out in the future, and then time caught up, and then boom, down they went. But there was the important part of this is you can visualize it, hear it, and feel it, but it's the knowing that you're part of that you are part of that great unknown that everything comes from. And by you knowing, you're calling it from the unknown into the known. You are that master.
Right.
And there's a relationship between you as the master and your source within. That relationship is what we're being pushed to reawaken, because it was our original, when we came here out of the out of whatever you want to call it, and we came here whole, and we came in here whole, our imagination, our creation, all of that, and then we were programmed to be less than.
Right. And we knew it too. Most of us have memory of coming in, I do, and going,
Yes.
wait, never mind, never mind. Like there was like some kind of like something that happened in the delivery room. Doctors will report there's like some kind of hiccup that had happened, right? Most of us, we came in, blazing and to save and to liberate and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
gung ho. And then we're like, oh wait, this is really intense. Never mind, because
Yeah.
of this.
So the thing with this is that we're under an agreement
Mm-hmm.
that if we're going to enter this realm as the high beings that we are, that we have to forget who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their way with us for a few years, okay, telling us we're nothing, we're no one, we're la 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 la, and then we come out of that into our true expression of self, and really all we're doing is recalling that, remembering that true nature of ourself,
Right.
and allowing it to surface and then acting on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that do the two paths, they stay 3D, so for all their family and everybody else, and then they go 6 or 7D when they're with their other friends, right? And they keep doing this, and it's when you finally let go of that and become this completely, right?
Right.
Then you're not praying to two gods. You're not actuating two states within you anymore. You're the one state.
Right.
Usually that's right on that's when we float from the left brain over to the right. That creative, imaginative place.
Some of us don't actually ever commit to the 3D. I think that a lot of us, in some way, like this comment and what you were saying about the moving things, that's one of my clearest childhood memories, is terrifying my father. I freaked him out by moving things. It would scare
Yeah.
him, and he was very kind of a guy, and to see him scared to where he
Yeah.
wouldn't even come in the room and he would cower toward the door, and I just wanted the handle on my closet to be in the other handle hole that was missing handle. I just fixed it. I just
Yeah.
wanted it to be. So I said please, and I closed my eyes and it did it. And like it made a big impact in my family, for a while there. I became the outlier where I was held. I was pulled out, and like my father would talk to my older siblings and have them, being sure that I was controlled and all this. And I was, 6, 7, 8 years old when this was all going on. I wasn't like super young, but young enough. And it's about belief. Okay. That's what spirit says. I'm going to add this one point. I know you can have something more to say, but it's about belief. What spirit tells me every time is that, going back to the percentage thing, if we have 98% belief in something, it's still not as powerful as it can be. It's believing completely, knowing is the word you used, and if I believe that this is going to occur, it will. And this is true for a lot of things. Most people use belief against themselves. They use belief like worst case scenario kind of stuff, like this kind of thing always happens to me kind of talk, and if we can
Yeah.
learn, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
If we can learn to allow ourselves to instead say the other words and to believe the other words, the you're powerful, you are capable, I mean, those things, you could even say something simple and small seeming, you know I challenge people often to say to themselves, I'm awesome,
Mm-hmm.
and use your own name. And you know how cringy that is? Yeah, definitely. It's super difficult to do. But once you allow yourself to do it for a little while, you're uncasting spells against yourselves, and then are able to stand in your power and say the things that actually matter in the moments. Like when you are able to stand in your power and be the amazing being that you are. Like, look at you. How are you're here in this now moment during the grand awakening? I remember when the request went out, everyone raised their hand and volunteer. It wasn't just a few people who were hesitantly, okay, I'll come and help the planet. Everybody wanted to come right now. Everybody wanted to be here right now. And only those who could do it were picked. If you're here and you were picked, that means you're pretty freaking cool. You have a lot of power and a lot of knowing and ability already inside of you. And just as you have said, Dr. Dwayne, we had all of us have had parents, associates, family, peer, friends, teachers who have been brought into our lives to diminish us, to low self-worth, talk us to into this belief system of doing it for ourselves. Then it becomes a self-perpetuating prison, and it's now about reclaiming the power that you already are. It's true. We all know it's true. That's why it feels so big when someone says it. And then you recoil back to, but that's bad. Why is that bad? Why is it bad to be people? Right?
You want to talk bad? That's the devil telling you it's bad, literally,
Right.
so that you return to it.
Right.
If there was a devil. But I'm just saying.
Definitely. So
The
how do
thing
we
that
teach people to do? So go ahead. Sorry.
How do we teach people to what?
How do we teach people, help them see their truest potential, but seeing it through their own eyes? How do you teach someone to do that?
Take a minute and close your eyes and totally let go of whatever you believe you are, a mother, a father, a child, a teacher. Let it all go. Nothing equals nothing. As you close your eyes and you let go completely, there's an awareness there that's watching all of it. That great part of you that is the witness, that is the God within, the goddess within, that great being is you. Some people feel it when they start to breathe in and they feel this expansion. It's almost like they're above their reality. It's almost like they have escaped through the top of their head into their higher self, if you want to put it that way.
I like that.
And the goal is to bring the higher self into the body. Be be that be that higher self on this plane. You all came here. You all came here in full knowing that you were going to come here, experience, and expand. This is the only plane of existence that you get to become God. The rest you already are. And this is the becoming. And this pressure we're feeling and tension in the world of things is what it takes for you to retreat or choose to be this higher aspect. All the magic and miracles that you've ever heard about are real.
Yeah.
But we have been living in a cage that's called 3 dimension,
Mm-hmm.
that's called the limited. But there is a key. There is a key for the door of the cage, and it's on the inside. And once you open that cage and step out into all of these magic and miracles that you are, that you can do, that you can perform, you soon realize that these miracles aren't really miracles. They're just the new norm. That's what an expanded being is the ability to morph reality in a moment out in front of them, simply by going to a different state of being inside and knowing.
Yeah.
And it's like a wave. So we can close our eyes, feel the expansion, and then open our eyes and see a shift or change in our reality. Then we do it again. We close our eyes and we get to see more. Right? So, who was it said? Bashar said, you never left heaven.
Yeah.
So people say, well, when are we going to be in 5D? You aren't.
Yeah.
It's just your belief that you're not that keeps you from experiencing it. Right. When we start playing in these areas, we really take a look at most of our modalities, especially hypnosis, what we can start to do with hypnotherapy rather than just take care of ouches that happened in the past. We could start the expansion using it, using this ability to go into a trance. Now, the thing that is, I want people to understand is the only reason that you're in a limited point of view at all is because they used a trance on you.
Yeah.
All I personally do, and I'm sure that's what you're doing, is waking people up from the trance.
Yeah. That's right.
You don't have to be scared or worried about whether you can go into hypnosis or not. You're already hypnotized. Otherwise, you're manifesting your own food, flying around, doing all the miracles. You're already hypnotized.
Yeah.
What I do, what I'm sure you do, is you awaken them from the hypnosis.
Right.
Have them step back into their vibration and let it teach them how to accelerate that vibration for themselves. Now, people can be living in a world where, oh my gosh, implants are real and people are doing these things to me and everything else. And then you realize, oh, that's victimization mentality, which means I'll never win as long as I'm a victim. So you own it and say, I created it. So if I created it, I can uncreate it. I can create something new. And then you start raising vibration and you find that all of these niggly things that used to try to keep you off track,
right,
don't exist anymore. And you realize how important it is to stay on track.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know about you, but that little news feed is really dangerous.
Yeah, the scrolling. That's what people call it, to scroll. I'm going to go scroll. Which is interesting. That's the scroll,
I mean, they'd do better if they went and scried,
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the thing is that this is all coming up in front of us right now for the purpose of us getting inside and knowing ourselves. Knowing that power within, expanding that power into our reality and living a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to change the world.
Right.
We're going to create our own.
Right. We're doing it.
Yeah. And it's the natural order of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I can sit here and argue over a loaf of bread, but it's a torment until one of us turn and realize we can manifest our own loaf.
Right.
And then where's the fight in that in the world?
Right.
There's so many things, like they've invented, water cars and energy systems and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on and on. And it all gets suppressed but yet, and then they complain because they need to clean up the atmosphere. Well, here's all these things you suppressed that would do that. You know, it starts to get nonsensical, doesn't it?
Right.
And there's a purpose in that, because it's supposed to bring you to a place of crazy where you go, bah, there's got to be more, and then you discover yourself, and there is
Right.
more, but it's in you.
That's exactly right. And we call it, sometimes we look at it like a bad guys, good guys story. And it's needed, as you said, because, like, for instance, you know, I mean, everybody has their experiences. And so my interpretation is different than other people. And I'm not saying that mine is the only story and the last word or whatever. But earlier on, like when I had my first narrative experience when I was 4, I brought a lot of stuff back with me, knowledge and understanding. And with that, also, very quickly after that, I started to have some really unpleasant, unkind experiences, spiritually speaking. A lot of beings that were unkind were coming into my world for a time. You could call that psychic attacks. You could call that a lot of different things. However, the result was eventually I got tired of it. I got tired of what we would call demons coming, and they would physically pull me from my bed and beat me up to where I was bruised and even broken bones. And then I was just done. And I learned my power in that moment, because I had no longer had anything to stop me. And finally, I just said, enough. And it stopped. And then I went, whoa, what could I do?
Then you realize fear was the fuel that fueled them.
I brought
when
them
you stepped into your power and went, bah, that was it.
Exactly.
And I know people don't realize that. So they're going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole on how to fix this, when the fixing is a state of being where you can go, enough.
Yeah.
I'm the commander in my reality.
Yes.
This is my game, my rules. I'm governed by the rules of my own game.
Yeah.
And nothing seen or unseen has any right to me but I.
Exactly.
Boom. I mean, you can also do exactly whatever. That's why it's kind of really interesting to find in my clients that moment.
Yeah.
Right? That moment, and call it something, and it's their power. It's something they've done. Right? I remember working with a lady one time, and and she was at the doctor, and going in for an operation. She was in the bed. She was just about ready to go in for the operation. The doctor comes in, and she's going to have a breast removed. And the doctor comes in and looks at the chart and looks at her, and he says, now, which breast was it? And she goes, you don't know? And he goes, well, no, you could just tell me, and then I'll know. I could look through the chart here. She goes, if you don't know, I'm out of here. And she got up, and that was her PowerPoint. And she left the hospital, and she healed her breast at the same time.
Right. Yep.
Another little old lady I worked with, she says, you know what I did years ago? I says, what? She goes, I surprised all of them. I says, oh, what did you do? She goes, back when I was about 60 years old, they told me I needed to have a complete hysterectomy. And I was going to have it. She says, I was in the hospital. And she was another one that just before the operation, she decided, something's wrong with this. I'm going to go. So she gets up and she puts her clothes back on and she walks out. And the doctor was at the nursing station, and he goes, hey, where are you going? You got an operation in a few minutes. And she goes, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. And the doctor said, if you walk out of here, I'll wash my hands of you. She goes, wash away. And she walked out. That power healed whatever was going on.
Yep.
That power. She says, "You know what I do, Dwayne?" I go, "What?" She goes, "I kept him as my doctor, and I go and see him once a year." And she says, "It consists of this. I'm sitting waiting for him in his office. He walks in. I stand up and I shake his hand and I say to him, 'I'm still alive, you son of a bitch.'" And she, "Oh, that's her power."
Yeah.
We don't, we kind of lolly and we don't actually access our power.
Right.
We do a lot of this lolly,
Yep.
right? I mean, they throw a lot of stuff at you, you know? You're saying here, that they tell you you can do this, you can't do that, and why are you Christmas tree and at this time and la la.
Right.
If we listen to too much of that, we get off of our own power.
Right.
Oh, should I do this or shouldn't I? Should I? I can't say the F word. Oh, I can say it. Or what? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's evil. It's bad. No, it's a PowerPoint. You know what I mean? And we
Yep.
get all this confusion until we come into this place inside of us and just go, "Puh,
Right.
enough." It's
Exactly.
almost like these thoughts are like taunting us to be confused. Be strong.
Right. I
And
have
if
a
people say, "Oh, that scares me," you go, "Boo." Yeah.
It's true. I mean, I have a story like that too, and so does a lot of the people that I've talked to as well. Like mine was in 2007. I had a terminal illness, and without this procedure and that procedure and this medication and that one, like it whatever, like I still wasn't. It wasn't supposedly, according to them, it still wouldn't have like ended the fact that it was supposed to take my life, supposedly, right? This was 2007. I had weeks, maybe months. That was 2007. It's 2024. I didn't participate. I wouldn't participate for a lot of different reasons. I didn't want to, and like I found that when I would go to the hospital, I'd become unwell. Like
Yeah.
it's true. I would like go from feeling, maybe not that great to all of a sudden I was really out of harmony, and it
Yeah.
would take at least twice as long of being away from the hospital to just kind of find mediocre balance after, you know. And so, yeah, it was systemic scleroderma. It's one of those things that supposedly there's no escaping. Your organs systematically shut down, break down, and stop working, and then you die. And that's not the case. Here I am, and I wouldn't participate. There's a lot of things that are pointing to also in the scientific world. They're also talking about this, that they're able to prove that the matrix is the world that we're living in, not just because that's what the movie said or something like this. It's everything that all the things that we're doing in technology now that's about coding and how to make a video game and stuff like that is identical to our genome and what's inside of our body.
Yep.
It's there. It's provable science that we are creating all of this. There's a friend of mine that Charmony, she calls it a creality. You create your reality, so it's a creality, and I like that.
I like that. Creality. Yes.
Yeah. So
So
how do you? Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
So, how do we teach someone who has been so invested in the system? I mean, invested is not even the right word. You just get used to it, right? That's just what
Yeah.
you're doing. Um, and, of course, there is some investment because we're taught that you need this thing and you need that thing. That's the whole point of consumerism, is to keep you invested in some type of system so you can get the promised reward at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But how do we teach somebody who's coming back out of that? Because as you said, it's a wave. We didn't start that way. And we
No.
slowly got, submerged into it. Now we're coming back out. How do we teach them to create the reality? Apart from visualization, the emotion part. This is the part that I teach people the most. And so I was wondering if you can like give your 2 cents about, like, if you're to manifest, what emotion base do you go with on this?
Okay, so I'm getting 2 questions here. I'm
I
going to
know,
answer.
I know. I'm really excited about, because it covers a lot of different. Pick
I'll
which one
answer
you.
the first one. You remember the second one,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So, well, and maybe I forgot the first one. What was the first one?
Um, how do you teach someone to using their emotion? What emotion base are they being guided to use uh, to uninvest, I guess, and to actually participate in the electric spiritual world that we're actually in?
Okay, so first of all, your first question, it came back to me, was actually how do you help a person uh, at all? You know, basically, is how I took it, and that is that what I teach my students right off the bat when they're learning how to do this is you never work with somebody that doesn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't want to be there, they're not invested in it. It's not going to work,
Right.
right? You can't force. You can't run around with a 10-pound Schofield reference Bible and clock them in the head and tell them they need to convert. It has to be something that is a spark within them that when they hear these words, they're engaged to do something about it.
Right.
Then you can teach them, then you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not there, and I'm sure you've experienced this if you've been doing it, is it somebody that, a parent or a husband or a wife has dragged them to your place and plomped them down? It's not going to work.
Yeah, I've had those experiences.
So that's the first thing to talk about. People right now that are hearing these words, that are starting to get a little hint of gadunka about it all and wanting to do something, that's exactly the point in time they ought to. And don't wait too long.
Yeah.
Because then the critic comes in and tries to get you off of it so you stay in that lower vibration. When you feel that hit, that joy, that delight, that thing, right? That's a full connection of a yes for you to do it. Now, once you've done that, it becomes very easy to help people associate into greater states of being,
Mm-hmm.
right? And teach them how to hold that, teach them an anchor so they can anchor into it anytime they want to, right? But every time that they want to, I want your audience to understand is that every time they want to and they do connect with that, if you take a look at what a timeline is, there's the present moment, the past, and the future. Every time that you have a really wild, delightful experience, that goes into the past as a memory. You keep stacking those up and you change your reality because
Yes.
that's how at first, that's how we do things. When we want to look at something, it's really strange how humans do this, but it's true either way. They look at something brand new and then they go into the past and filter through all the things they have had experienced and then take that information and attach it to whatever is coming up,
Right.
which you're only living Groundhog Day. You're only living your past all the time,
Right.
right? But when you let go of that addiction to do that and you start looking at things as they are, you start to really discover magic in this world because a simple thing can mean more than one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we like to say, okay, this is something and that's it. This is a pen, that's it, right? And we can all agree it's a pen of some
That's
sort,
a
a mark.
marker.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to play.
it's a marker, is it? Now let's take a look at this and suspend all your concepts of what this is. To a child with an active imagination, a child that isn't putting uh, definitions on anything, this could be a magic wand.
Yeah.
And with this magic wand, there's magic that can flow out the end. And if I was to do this, boop, what did you feel? Beep. Beep, beep, beep.
It's play.
So the thing that is that for a child or for somebody that doesn't have definition on something, it can be anything.
Yes.
Including you.
Yep.
So we want to really get rid of everybody's definition of who you are, especially if it's limited. Let it go.
Excuse me.
And come back to you. Come back to this idea that no one can define you. You're undefinable.
Right.
In a moment, you could be in an argument with somebody, and in a moment, you could turn your mental thinking to the fact that you're watching their mouth move. They sound like Donald Duck, and I'm over here floating in the ethers. You don't have to engage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could laugh as long as you wouldn't get hit by the other one. But,
I've been known to have that happen too, where I just start laughing. I can't help it. I do. Don't want. I'm not doing it out of disrespect. It's just everything is funny in life, though. Everything is funny. Everything, all of the life, and it's meant to be. It's meant to be. So those of us who can see the irony and see the humor and see the silliness and the obscurity of life are often deemed as insane. Those who rattle off in laughter in the corner are seen as insane. However, who's having more fun?
The jig's up. The jig's up, dear. We begin to realize that the corrals that they used to hurt us with,
yeah,
right? One of them panels is called crazy. So if you cross the crazy line, then see the thing that is that this is a well orchestrated machine. 90% of the prison guards is just everybody else. Right. We don't realize we're maintaining the prison, right?
Yeah.
So when you do something and the crowd goes point and says, "Oh, bak 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 bak," there's numbers here, and we all think that you're doing something wrong, right? That's the time to buy a plane ticket and feel your freedom, because these people aren't your people.
Yeah.
Right. And there's lots of people that look at you and go, how can I send energy, do whatever I can to support you in expanding even more?
Right.
No, that's a friend.
Yeah.
Right. One that looks at you and says, we live in this world that they say, oh, we need the contrast. We need you do for a while until you start to recognize, hey, I'm greater than this. And then you manifest yourself out of it. That's how come guru is spelt the way it is. Guru.
I love that.
Because at the end of the day of all of the teachings, you realize that the only teacher that you ever needed was self.
Yep. As in, G, you are you.
Yeah.
Just because I see it too. The same way. It's exactly that. You're right. I just wanted to emphasize the tone so people could hear what you were saying.
Yes. We are there's more and more, way more of us out there that are listening and wondering. They don't know. They're on the fence a little bit or whatever. We're here to help you. That's what our job is to help you come to the point where you recognize this in you, and then you go out and help other people. So we change the world one person at a time. Maybe groups. but we're there's no one coming to save us.
Yeah.
It is us understanding who we are that saves us. It's us understanding who we are that changes the whole paradigm.
Right.
Because that's the one thing they don't want you to realize. Spread the word about this work. Spread the word about it, become it, change with it, transform, because we're coming out of a humanity that's been confined for millennium
Yeah.
to coming into our rightful ascension. One of them, Zeus, stopped this many thousands of years ago. He got jealous about human beings being gods like him, so he put them into hypnosis and split them in two. So they were agreeable and disagreeable at the same time within their own head. Right?
Right.
Together we stand, and divided we fall. So all we have to do is come into our own,
The oneness.
and we'll have rewritten what had happened thousands of years ago. We come back into the one mind, right?
I hear that all the time.
One mind within ourselves, not conform to something out there. One mind, your one mind.
Mm-hmm. Spirit tells me that when there's that's what taught me that emotions were separate consciousness. They weren't actually part of us. I didn't know that. Like, it makes so much sense now, but it's such a novel idea when you've been taught that the emotion is part of you, but what how spirit showed it to me is they kept showing me too many minds. And
Mm-hmm.
we, as a person in conflict, or when things are like rocky, we're in too many minds. And I'm totally in agreement with you about that. And along with the thread of what you were saying, many of us, I know that a lot of people I talk to ask this question, what do you do with, helping, I want this person to wake up or that person to wake up. And all we can do is plant the seed,
Yep.
and once we plant the seed, for one reason or another, the seed planter rarely sees the growth. You plant the seed and they wander away, is kind of how it works. And then years and years later,
you hear from them again, and they go, "Oh, you changed my whole life. I've never been different since." And you go, "Oh, well, thanks for letting me know. I didn't realize that you actually took it up."
Yeah, exactly. And only people, I would say it's really uncommon for us to get to meet them again, and so people like Dr. Dwayne and myself are in unique positions where we're kind of like out there a little bit more. So people do come back around again. And then we get to see that they've flourished into a tree. And like you said, "Oh, remember that time?" And the things that chase those individuals away, that feel like they chased them away, were actually what brought in assistance for them. That was the planting of the seed. And so you all are doing the same thing too, and this isn't a missionary work. This isn't, have you heard the good word as you knock on someone's door? It's just being you. It's going to the grocery store and remarking about the energy. Like it's being you in all ways. And eventually people start to ask questions. How did you get that? I know that I have a lot of people that either like really don't like me because they're jealous that life shouldn't be as easy as it is for me. They think they see my life and see it as easy. And I can tell you this: I was a trafficked child. I was a sex victim from the age of 4 to 14, where I wasn't allowed to go outside. For all of those years, I had so much trauma. Everybody, one of us have had trauma, okay? But I had stuff. And then I got tired of it. And I decided to do something about it. So then life got to start getting better. As Dr. Dwayne has said, I decided to start to choose. Now, those things aren't my identity. I only bring them up to help you see, because people say, but my life is so hard. I can't do that. I can't do what you're doing. Everybody's life feels hard when you're living in the 3D. And when you start to allow yourself to go into your energy space, just like Dr. Dwayne said, and bringing in the love and choosing what my reality is going to be. I also am very aware of the energy. You feel a lot of energy and it does feel like it's pushing you down. Send out the love and it transmutes that shit. And now you get to be in a place of joy where it feels easy. And then this is the last little bit that took me a minute to figure out, to remove my belief in the falsehood of control. Because if you think that you are in control, you're not. So removing your need to be in control, to just go with the flow. Because of those things that are meant to occur, Spirit will just bring them into your vicinity. And that's how I live my life. It's like, oh, I guess I'm going to go do this now because it's coming up, and as you do it in this effortless manner, you find yourself in this easy land. My life has become easy. My life is effortless now. As a person coming from where I've come from, contrary to all psychology, people and everything, what would have occurred just for someone in my situation, I get to be in a place of love and I get to assist others to find it too. And what a joy, what an honor and a privilege that this life has become. And so I just wanted to bring that up because of local people in 3D world. I can hear them and they get mad at me because they're jealous that my life is so easy. And it's fascinating for me to hear their interpretation of me.
They're arguments for their own limitation.
Yeah.
That's what it is. When they point their finger at you and start whatever about your freedom, they're trying to confine themselves back into the world where things aren't easy. If they didn't, they would just come and and put their head on your shoulder and nestle into you and try to pick up the vibration you are. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. They're defending the boundary of their own prison.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I want to suggest something at this point. Listening to what you were saying and then about going into this state and going into the higher vibrations. When you're first breaking out of the lower vibrations, you may find yourself going through some power stroke moves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you go enough and you have to mean it. Enough. And people say, oh, that sounds angry. You just shut up and let yourself do what you need to do, right? Okay, I like to put it this way. If you're sinking in quicksand and I hand you a stick, don't talk about how the sand is sucking you down. Grab the stick.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a little effort to pull you out of that quagmire because of all the old beliefs and things that you've locked up as this equals that. If I do this, this will happen. All that kind of stuff is filled in your head, right? But as you raise out of this, it's going to take sometimes a little effort. You got to pull your leg out. You got to stretch a little bit to get out of the quicksand. You know what I mean? You might swear, and I don't care if you swear. It doesn't do anything to you, except maybe bring your power up if you need to.
Yeah.
Consistent swearing going on and on and on while there's something wrong. But using it as a power, using it as a power of expression in you that says that's enough. I don't know anybody that's ever got out of difficulty or out of the lower vibrations that didn't have to use a little bit of, this is mine.
Yeah.
Do not cross this line. Right?
Yeah.
that may seem aggressive and all of this stuff, but don't let the media get in your head.
Right.
If someone's touching your child, you beat them with a stick.
Yeah.
Beat them. Because the thing of it is they're trying in this hypnotic process to take away your natural ability to even defend yourself.
Right.
Okay. So no is no, right?
Yeah.
You can be an absolute loving being, right? But you need to be able to exercise that side of you too.
Yeah.
That has the power to stand up.
Definitely.
So many times I was working with the inner child work and whatever, and we're at the point where we're standing in front of the parents as the child and the adult you are now, the child, and have them look at their own parents. Now, depending, some people have really good parents, and we don't do necessarily this one. Other ones that didn't have good parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so the adult you looks at the mother and father and says, okay, fuck you, you're fired. In front of the little girl. No, or the little boy, the child.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll raise him, her from now on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that does two things. A lot of times in our life, it's nice to see that somebody can actually defend us. A lot of the times we never had that as a child. Anyone standing for us. They were always on their knees to society, to the school system, to the religion, to the everything. And the child was the last thing. So when you reenact that as yourself, and I have the power to take you down because this is my reality, to these, that brings something to the table that was never there, was that undying love to and defend that child within you. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes, I'm just saying sometimes, we need to have some of these little bit of a defensive and little more whatever approaches as well when we're first coming out of the quagmire. Once we're out of the quagmire, don't worry about it because you don't need to exercise that. All it is ever is the knowing.
Right.
And then you can express yourself. Somebody comes to argue with you. In your knowing, you can just literally turn your head and let them quack away, and it doesn't even bother you. It's not reacting, you're not reacting, any of that, because you've taken care of all of it up through here.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And in many ways. Something else too is just because we have done this before doesn't mean we're not going to do it again too in this life.
Exactly.
We have so many different times where these come up. Yeah. And so it's okay.
I've gotten lazy in life, lolly da da di da da di da. Oh, all the stuff is coming in again. What did I do? Okay. As soon as I come back into here and go womp, right? Mm-hmm. And then realize that it's only me. It's only my reality. And I bump into your reality with my reality.
Yep.
Right. And sometimes we bump, we share stuff, and then we go away. Right. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
I got to tell you about this one girl. When I was in Greece and I was doing the Feel the Magic weekend thing, and this one girl had joined the group, and everybody kind of had a slight judgmental thing about her because she was absolutely so innocent, so childlike, and she was about 34, but she was so innocent and so childlike, and they reacted to that. Even spiritual people who were
Wow.
reacting to that. And anyway, but she came to me and she said, Dwayne, you and I were bubble friends, remember? And I said, bubble friends? And she goes, yeah, remember? Before we came here, we floated around in bubble. And then we would get curious about each other and we'd float and we'd bump into each other and talk a little bit and then we'd float away. Remember?
Wow.
And I went, no, I'm starting to. I'm starting to remember. I'm really feeling it. And she says, yeah. And then remember there was a change in the vibration of the planet, of the universe. And we knew we had to go somewhere. And so we came here, remember? It was so innocent and so touching.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot being communicated in that, even non-verbally and unconsciously.
Yeah.
She was trying to talk to me on many levels about this. Then I realized that no, she was. People should have just listened to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We all need.
Complexity doesn't mean it's better.
Right.
Complexity is another trick they're using to confuse people. More and more complex, right? If it's more complex, people will think I'm smarter. So we take simple things and we make them complex and aren't I bright? Really. The thing of it is that we have to do the opposite. It's simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler as we go. And we know that in evolution. As more we learn, the more, we come into this simplistic nature. And it's simple, not complex.
That's right.
If you're saying to yourself, oh, this is so complex, I don't know if I'll ever get it, drop it and come back into yourself and the fact that you are connected to source and there is no information at all that can be kept from you. That is illegal.
Right. Yep. That's true.
You can simply say, I will know or I know all things. Right? And you'll start opening up your brain. I remember when I did that at a young age and that popped open, all of a sudden I realized I wasn't this learning disabled, learning disabled, ADHD, all of that stuff that they were pointing at me, right? And I thought I needed to heal that. I went into a state where I commanded God at the time to heal my mind, right?
Yeah.
And I said to God, I says, you do everything. I mean, you create planets and all that, and I believed you in you my whole life. Get down here, you lazy son of a bitch, and heal my mind. I mean, I got to that point of frustration. This is my early days in this area, the quagmire, right?
Yeah.
And I was told to put a line in the rug with my finger. Just put a line, draw a line, and that when I was ready to step across that line. And so I thought, first of all, is this all real? Am I really hearing this? Am I all that? And then it was time, and I decided, okay, that's it. And I stepped across the line, and then all of a sudden, the tingles came from my neck all the way up the top of my head. And when I did, I felt my brain go boom, or my head, or my skull, and then I realized that I wasn't just what was in Argartha. I was all of it.
Yeah.
And everyone is. And all of a sudden, anyone asks me a question, I can give them an answer. I'm not stumped, really, ever.
Yeah.
But it's triggered with a question.
It's triggered with a question.
It's triggered someone asking me a question, and then boom, I go into this expansion, and then I pull the answer for them. Right.
Right.
You do the same thing.
All the time. And I don't even know that I know it until the question's asked. And then I can't remember not knowing it ever. I've always known
right.
That's always been there. And
exactly.
it's fun because people will even say that about me. They're like, "Wow, you're just so well versed and you're just so well read and all this." I'm saying, "No, I mean, thank you." But it's something similar happened to me that you had mentioned. What I did is I understood, I became aware of the fractalization of the soul, that we leave fractals or residue of our soul in different moments of trauma, and eventually it's noticed because you can feel the incompleteness that needs
Yeah.
to be recalled. And so what I did is I commanded all aspects and all missing parts of me to return. I recalled myself, and when I did that, something changed,
Yes.
or like something big shifted.
Yeah.
And I'm, in all intents and purposes, people would probably call me something like a walk-in, which I don't resonate with, um, because I became someone new. What also occurred was I brought in, we merge. I don't know if many of you know this or not. I hope that you do. And if you don't, you'll learn something new. Is that we merge with higher self all the time. The
Yeah.
profound change in mind and body that we declare to be a spiritual experience, that's why we have so many of them, the spiritual awakening, is that we merge into our higher self, and then our higher self becomes our higher self. And it's not that you're becoming someone new, is that you're becoming someone more.
Most of the time when people are channeling, that's what they're channeling, is their own higher
That's
aspect of
right.
themselves, calling it a name. But it's you.
That's right.
Yeah. Your higher self of higher self. I've had that same experience of having a walk in. That's where I was talking about moving those objects.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't tell you the other half of that. The other half of that, I went into a fear pattern afterwards and thought, gee, all I'd have to do is think about it and it would happen. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of went through a freak out. Right. And in that, all of a sudden, I felt the difference. I felt an absolute shift in me. I wasn't me anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I even told my friends at that time, and I had zero understanding of this at all, never heard of it before or anything else. And I said to them, I just had a walk in,
Hmm.
you know, but I didn't know the word. I didn't even know what that meant.
Right.
But there it was. It popped out of my mouth. Then I realized that it wasn't necessarily a walk in, but what it was a frequency shift. So when I accomplished that, moving the objects, I shifted my frequency, and I was no longer me, the
Yeah.
me that I knew. Yeah.
Right. And we're glad for it. It's not like you're saying goodbye, like you're a good riddance kind of feeling. It's just like, now I've released myself from the burden of that part, from that anchor. And that's what a lot of us are doing right now. We're releasing false anchors. I've been connecting with this vessel for a few months in meditation, and sometimes even in remote viewing. I'm interacting with this vessel, and it turns out now they're calling it a moon, and it's entering our orbit on the 29th, and it's going to stay in our orbit for a larger and larger number of days, a greater and greater amount of days. Every time that I look it up, they're reporting something different, but supposedly now it's going to be in our orbit. It's going to be orbiting like a moon for 57 days. Now, my interaction with these beings, they're made of pure energy, and so they're not as physical as you would expect. And a lot of, really, truly, most beings do tend to be kind of humanoid. Um, this is also, these beings are interchangeable between ET and angel, depending on your upbringing and your background. It's about the same. They're the same thing. Like, um, anyway. So, the reason that this is being sparked, brought up right now, is that the things that we're talking about right now, these guides, these guardians, these ancestors of the light are coming here to help you to remember who you are. It's the closer that they are to in vicinity to you, to us as a planet, the more that all of our toys can turn on, that
Yeah.
need this remote battery. And so a lot of
And
people, what was that?
you've got toys that you don't even know you got. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy the number of things that are just dormant, just barely under the surface.
And a lot of the times, I'm going to be honest here, a lot of the times, my clients, if you want to call my clients, they're using this ability. They know they have it, but it can't be like the gurus, right? It can't be like the guru. So we're going to follow the guru and not do anything with their own.
Right.
And the whole point of the guru is to teach you to come into your own, right?
Right.
Use your powers and abilities. A lot of times people are looking for this great big crescendo, this fireworks and everything when they achieve this thing. There is none. In fact, most of the time with people, they realize, what, that thing? That was, yeah, that's what the guru was talking about. Yeah. Oh, you mean the third eye, opening the third eye is the imagination? Yes. And you've been using your imagination all your life, right? Now
Right.
you're using it more. It's not frozen with calcified. It's in atrophy because you're not using it.
Yeah.
Just use it.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's an intentional thing around uh there was a time where I was introducing people into our family for a little bit. We were like becoming more social with just people in the neighborhood. This was a little while ago, a couple years ago. Just I tend to hang out with the spiritual people and to associate with, and so at that time I was kind of like, well, let's see what if we can like start from the ground up, or kind of thing where you can, just because this person's not spiritual doesn't mean they can't come over for a cup of coffee, kind of idea. Anyway, I bring this up because I have a daughter who's very emphasized in her imagination, and every time somebody new would come in who were considered in this way, we're just not as spiritual in this spiritual path on purpose as we are. That would be one of the first things they would say. She was 7. Don't you think she's a little bit too old to be using her imagination? Aren't you worried about her using her imagination? Shouldn't you teach her that that imagination is lying? Like all these types of things, and it would be a daily thing to where I'm just like, you know what? This is, pruning the child's spiritual ability. That's why it's actually called pruning. Between the ages of 5 and 7, a child will go through what they call pruning, and that child will then at that point forget magic, forget all the spiritual thing that they had a connection to. They'll remove themselves from using imagination and exploring these things further. It's not surprising that's around the time that you're really indoctrinated into school. And
That's
then,
because
yeah. And then, if a child still engages in this way, at least in the earlier years, they would be considered candidates for early onset schizophrenia or childhood schizophrenia.
yeah,
To use their imagination.
that's right.
This is the magic of the third eye you've mentioned. And that fly keeps landing on your third eye.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the magic has been suppressed in us, and you wouldn't even believe how long back the process has started, and to move it from one to another, right? To move it to, and what a long game this has been, right? But we're at the end of the game, and it's time for us to step into our own power, our own imagination, create our own reality. You'll notice that as you do this, you start to disconnect from your own past, because your own past was only ideas, right? This present moment is where it's all at. and you
Yeah.
can view into the future and expect something to show up. But what happens is that you don't compare it to the past anymore because everything is a new experience.
Yeah.
Everything is a brand new experience. So you don't need to hold on to the past. People ask me, well, how do I jump timelines? How do I jump? I says, do you still believe in your past? And they go, yeah. And I says, well, you can't yet. So learn what it feels like to disconnect from your past and let it go and stay in this stable place because you're going to need that for this world and the next.
Right.
Right. The teachings we do don't only teach you about 3D and how to survive here. This is about what you're going to need for the next life too. Right. Because if you can't stay stable within yourself without an illusionary past dragging behind you, taking you into lower vibration all the time, right? Because there is some good things with your past, and there's things that 90% of people don't ever look at the good things. They just rehearse the past, the bad stuff.
Right.
But if you disconnect and you realize that that's an illusion, and you stay here in this present moment, now you can you can jump timelines because you're no longer anchored to this one
Yes.
through your past. So exploring what that would feel like to be in that state of expansion. I am the universe expanding. Through every experience I expand. For every desire I desire, I'm expanding the universe.
Yeah.
And this relationship with source energy. Life becomes a prayer.
Ooh, I love that wording. Yeah.
And your reactions become your reactions to the prayer and to the manifested realities, and become this great feeling inside of you that grows and grows and grows until you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable anyway.
That's awesome. That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And knowing that all you have to do really is allow yourself to consider the likelihood is that what you've known to be true, this knowing meaning, like societally speaking, is likely not true.
No.
We begin this way. This is the starting point, and that's the suspension of belief in all things. Like, it ends up working out to be everything, and yeah, the farther back we go, the up we go, the more we see that we're not even really here. I mean, not
No.
really,
No.
but
You never left
that's
it. Yeah.
yeah, that's a really deep topic. But when it comes to, like, for instance, our history, we are all very aware on some level that the history, I mean, not personal history exactly even, but just the history is false. We are starting to, as a society, as a world, becoming able to embrace that likelihood to some degree or another.
When we get to the point like we are now, we're getting to that point. We're having more and more experience of it. That you look at the past with the same childlike wonder of possibility
Yeah.
as you do the present moment and the future. You're free.
Yeah.
Right? Because your past could have been anything.
Yeah.
And people say, well, you can't change the past. Yeah, you can. It's yours.
Right.
You can change it any way you like it. And they go, yeah, but this really happened. And then you go, did it? Ask 5 people that were with you what that situation was.
Right.
Well, we've got this falsehood about the past being rock solid. Be
Right.
a floater in that too, as a child, looking at
Yeah.
in pure childlike wonder.
Yeah.
What if you could flip your past to be something else? What if they actually meant this? What if actually you could go back in time, and in that trauma state, just before the trauma state, you grab a hold of that child and you get the hell out of there. And then that never had to happen.
It's called quantum
You
healing.
could play with so much stuff and make therapy so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Pleiadians came. Okay.
Mhm.
However, I still interpret that the way that they called themselves that. That was the name they gave themselves when they came. I was 12, almost 13. And I had been having a lot of trauma. And I was still having the trauma at the time. But I understood that it was coming to a close. Sure enough, I had only 2 years left of it. And what they showed me was to go back and it feels like daydreaming. You go back to these events, these moments, these occurrences of the trauma that aren't felt yet, because you're healing, you're just coping, you're just surviving through the moment, and so go back and let yourself feel it, in a controlled, meaning you're safe, you're safe, and I found in some of these events I had to go back multiple times. You go back, and I thought what they were showing me how to do was I was changing history. I was changing my past, because in some cases it felt very much like that. When I went back in there, I would flip the script and I would change what had occurred. Sometimes I
Yep.
would enter as, a supportive adult who could stop the occurrence from happening. Sometimes I was a stronger person as a child. I was a grown person or something like that. And before long, not only was I able to liberate this childhood, this past, this trauma, like I bring it up only as a point of conversation that everybody can heal. It doesn't
Yep.
burden me any longer. It truly doesn't. And it doesn't have to burden anyone, and what was done then was, once this healing had occurred, once there was no longer like stuff connected, drawing me into this place, then I was
Yeah.
able to start to see all this beauty. Like, even
Yep.
some of the memories that I didn't have of my childhood that were silly, like I was eating a peanut butter sandwich and nothing
Mhm.
was happening. But to have that memory when I didn't have room for it before, was really exciting to me, and we all have the ability to do this. And so using your own discretion, your own discernment, and being aware of your safety and how it, hey, it's 333, to feel comfortable in your own bubble, calling back, recalling these moments and flipping the script, changing
Yep.
your story. Some of my history, I feel like, to myself, inside myself, I did change it, like a 100%. I am not that person. It's really cool.
To get curious about what healing would feel like, what would the feeling of healing feel like? A lot of people, a lot of practitioners out there don't do that with their clients. But if you don't do that with your clients, okay, what would it feel like to be already healed, complete, and everything, and have them describe that to you? Well, then they're never going to get there, are they? Because they don't have a clue what that is. So because they're manifesting their own reality, now they're manifesting their own reality, and if they don't have an idea of where it is they're going, well, it's like giving somebody a roadmap without any highways on it.
Right.
Where are you going to go? You don't know. It's like getting into the cab and asking, two different directions. The cab driver is going to sit there and wait until you strike the iron.
Right.
Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And then move towards that visceral experience of what that would be like. Your future self or your higher self. Work with your higher self. Your higher self is your greatest teacher. Listen to it. It's going to teach you things.
Right.
And that's every bit as real as me sitting here or you sitting here.
Right.
Is your own imagination. Your higher self will show you by displaying the state of being that you want to be in to achieve the goal you want to achieve, you look at that being and you start mimicking. What pictures would you have in your mind? What would you be saying to yourself? What would you be feeling? Remember when I moved the objects? Same thing.
Right.
You're manifesting now, not moving objects, but you're manifesting a great movement of you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So using the same technique, you can see, hear, and feel what you would be like in the next moment, and just hold it with knowing you're the commander. And then all of a sudden you're going to start feeling sensations in your body. You start to change. Next thing you know, right? Now, are you changing? Yes. Until or if you say, well, I don't think I am. How could I? Now you just sent it back for another few weeks until you bring it up again. And you're willing to actually step into that dimension.
Yeah.
Everyone does that. You see them, right? They do that. They go, this can't be this quick. It can't work this fast. Shut up, because you get to be right.
Yeah. You get to be right all the time. Yeah.
So when they start saying that, well, then you got to let it go and let them realize some things for a couple of weeks until they sit with you again and you go, okay, we're going to do this again. But this time you got to step in, right?
Yeah.
And become it. Be it.
You are it.
Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
Where they go, but?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just go, oh no, here's the but.
Uh-huh. It's frustrating too, because you see them grasping it. They'll always find their way. I would say that the greatest spell cast upon upon society has been low self-worth talk, because low self-worth talk teaches everyone who engage in it or participate in some way. It teaches us to diminish our own power and to be in the place of disbelief for all these powerful things. The low self-worth talk is it always typically runs in tandem with the word vanity, trying to avoid vanity at all costs. And then you discover later on in life that if you pull it up in the dictionary, vain is to hold yourself above others as well as below others. And we have been, all of us, most of us anyway, taught time and time again in religions and in family and peers and all these different groups to hold yourself below the saying that they're not worthy. See, I wouldn't even want to say it just now, because that's a casting of the spell against yourself. Just that and it's taught us to just knee-jerk go back to it. So noticing it though and changing your words is how I've been able to see other people flip the script and choose to do something different. To say, some people even what was that?
It's so important. I worked with I call it the internal critic myself. Okay. And I help people remove the internal critic because I know what the internal critic is. Zeus? That's what he put in place in between the two minds so that you would never go to God consciousness. So as soon as you start getting close, it starts going pip, 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 telling you all kinds of things that you're not, and all of this and all that, and you end up going back here to the left brain.
Right.
But you start going over here again, right? So I made a video one time about this, about how the critic gets in the way of your evolution, right? And it does. It's the main thing. If you can change that critic, that internal dialogue, to say something different, right? And start playing with it, folks. You hear your internal critic and it's a certain size in your mind, shrink it. You have the right, shrink it. See, it's small. What would it be like there? See, this is really using your imagination. What would it sound like small? What would it sound like with a voice like Donald Duck? What would it sound like? You know what I mean? Now, once you've got it played with there and you can change it, then come back over into your heart and listen to your loving voice, because this has been masking it. And the loving voice says that you can do anything. You're intelligent. It works with you. It's very peaceful. And you evolve very fast with that loving voice.
Yeah.
So I teach people how to remove the critic, put this loving voice back in the spot where the critic was. So you rent the room out. You can't come back in. So you rent the room, and what it feels like to hear loving voice from this side, and then surround it all through you. But that critic is the key thing that keeps people, and that's something that you is a program you learned when you went to school.
Yeah.
So you judged yourself against others. You were in a People were in a bad spot because they got yanked out of their family and plunked into a school, and they had this abandonment feeling, being ripped from their family.
Right.
And then that's when the programming starts. They're just rubbing their hands because they got you in your first real trauma. Now they can tell you that you're wrong being who you are. You have to be this something else. You can't be a fairy that sees, or someone that sees fairies, or any of this. You've got to stop that stuff or you're going to get locked up. This is what you see. This is you.
Right.
And so you put this false mask on and start. And sometimes here we are, sitting here watching one of these videos, realizing, holy crap, I put a mask on. I've never expressed my true self my whole life. No wonder I'm depressed.
Right. This is exactly.
That critic is changing. That critic, I agree with you, is key.
Yeah. And from that point, you can change. Then you become, I would say that that's the beginning point for a lot of people, for me as well, and once we can take our power back through this means, then everything becomes a lot more easier to do. My daughter described what you had just said. She's a homeschool kid, and she's also very connected. She's it's amazing that I'm so honored to be her mom. But she had told me, she was talking about it in tears. She was mourning for the 40 somethings is what she was mourning for people who were 45 is what she was telling me. And I'm like, I'm 45. What are you talking about? And she said that people her age have already started to forget who they are. She's 10. And she told me how the system of school works. That, and exactly what you had said, you by the time that you're 12, you've forgotten completely who you are. And by the time that you leave high school, she knew all of this. By the time that you leave high school, you suddenly become desperately or painfully aware that you don't know who you are. And then while you're, in your early 30s, then you go into therapy. And by the time that you're 45, you've caught up to where she is now. And it was beautiful how compassionate she was having for the experience for this. But she said, and that was when she said, thank you for keeping me in homeschool. Yeah. Like, for her to see it already at this age, it was so beautiful. Yeah. But she's right. Like, that just takes out 30 years of your life.
I've been teaching this for over 25 years. And that's exactly to the T of what I have taught, is that these stages that she's talking about happen. And about 35, 40, the program starts breaking down, just like it does with MKA Ultra. It starts breaking down, and people start really either going to therapy or spiritually getting connected, trying to find it that way. But they've always known, and this is something else that you mentioned earlier in this talk today, they've always known about this. They always knew it had to be simpler than this. They always knew it was more magical than this. They always knew that somehow they are creating this.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
No.
It's such a fun rabbit hole to jump down to think about, because every time I'm on another precipice into another understanding of the spiritual experience I'm in as an individual, I will go through this thing of everyone else knows what I'm just starting to almost figure out, and so I'll look at people differently. It's like I feel like everybody's waiting for me to catch up, because who's to say, like I already saw in the comments a couple of times, who's to say I'm not creating everyone in front of me as teachers, as whatever function is needed at that time. Who's to say that my consciousness isn't on, because if you pull back far enough, that is how it's working. That is how it
Right?
works. And so who's to say anything?
Everyone is an individual bubble in their own reality and their own world. I've been a hypnotherapist far too long to say that there's only one reality. Baloney.
Yeah.
Every person that comes to me has their own reality, and it's different than the next one. But these bubbles of our own reality, and it's not that we have to create this, we just have to remember it.
Yeah.
That this is who we are. That nothing influences you save you saying it does. Right? But we've got layers of this to come through a little bit. But we're bubbles.
Yep.
And we float around and we bump into each other. We share information, stories, ideas, sometimes horror stories, right? And then all of a sudden, this bubble here tells a horror story to this one, and this one starts shaking and starts creating that in their life because now they heard it and felt it.
Right. Right.
Know about it, right? They had no idea about it, so they were doing.
They're infected by it.
Yeah.
We can also infect people with love and with joy and with passion. We do it all the time. And I love that I get to come on and do these shows and to share in infecting those who come on, like you and I together, those in the audience, we're infecting them with this awesomeness. It's the word infected is a word that's coming up a lot right now. So I don't know what that's about, but it's not. I think that what it is meant to show that there's beauty in all words, and that some negative connotation or negative idea of what a word might be isn't always the only way, as well as all things. But
Is it a pen? Is it a magical wand?
Right.
Put your own definition to it, right? Exactly. Sorry, you were going to say?
Well, I was getting ready to close up because I have a daughter who really, I need to go check on her and be with her too. I love her, and I love being the mom that I get to be, but I also really love doing this, and I think it's so cool that I get to do both. But yeah, on occasion I did, after so long, I need to break away and go be with her.
Yeah. I didn't realize we've even gone over time, let alone way over time.
Oh, this has been fun. And I always love meeting with you, Dr. Dwayne. And I've already forgotten what your website is. Would you please tell people what your website is so they can contact you if they feel the need?
It's Dwaine Hartman, Dwaine Hartman, Hartman .com.
Okay. It was really super easy, wasn't it? Okay. Oops, I clicked.
So Dwayne Hartman.
Very nice to meet you.
Yes, that's it. DwayneHartman.com.
Okay. So here we are. You do sessions. You're called the Trance Alchemist, right?
That's right. Yeah. Trance Alchemist.
What type of sessions do you offer for people?
Well, anything that you heard here today, anywhere that they want to go to, I offer, first off, if you book it, a free consultation. Let's figure out what it is you want to do. I'll let you know honestly if I can do it or not. And usually I can, but Sometimes there isn't.
Right.
But also to see if we're compatible to working together, before you spend any money.
Right.
And then I offer a 4-session package or an 8-session package. Now, the 4-session package is common, but the 8-session is you do your first 4, and then you can spread out the other 4, right? Once a month, every second week if you want, whatever you want to do. I'd like to do the first 4 sessions back to back, like in 4 weeks, and then we can do the maintenance package, right? Now with 12, that saves you. I mean, with 8 sessions, it saves you all the way, on what you want to do there. It's cheaper than buying 2 4-session packages. Okay. Anyway, so, and then I also offer training, the hypnotherapy training. And I also go out. I haven't had much call for it lately anymore, but I go out and I do the 2-day event, right? And I meet people in person, because all this is online except for that where I get out and go meet folks. Yeah. And then they have to kind of contact me about that to find out how many I need and where they are, and because that varies depending on where I go.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Oh, wow, I'm getting an echo now. I don't normally get echo. Okay, it's gone. That was really weird. For a minute, I was echoing my own voice. So this website right here that you see, DwaineHartman.com, has how to contact Dr. Dwayne. Thank you all so much. I think I spelled it right, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Joining us in today's call. Please, if you find this is something that you enjoy and that has helped you, share it out. I mean, I love when I have guests come on that I feel like have a real powerful message, and I feel like today's conversation was so varied that it can help a lot of people in any degree of their awakening journey. So if you feel so inclined, I encourage you to share it out with anybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Dwayne, for joining us today. I hope to see you again.
I hope to see you too. Thank you everyone for showing up and all your comments and participating. Thank you. And thank you, Pamela, for having me on.
Of course. Thank you. For those of you who are wondering, by the way, we both, with that comet and the moon, are all happening in a week's time. Within this week, the comet's now in our vicinity, and it will be on Sunday that the moon will be entering our orbit. And then on the 2nd of October, then we're having the eclipse of the solar annual eclipse. There's a lot going on. So best thing you can do right now at this time is, do some grounding kind of stuff, meditation, things that we talked about today as well. Remember to hydrate and to rest, giving yourself the time that you need to stabilize. I love you all. Thank you for being here. And I will see you on Sunday at 2 p.m. for my regular live.